You're listening to iCommunicate with your host, Mark Altman, on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN. Once again, here's Mark.
Welcome back to iCommunicate, Finding Your Voice. So, Andy, here we are. Last segment. Andy and I could go on for days. So, Andy, I want to talk about some of the perceptions around private school education, public school education. So, talk to me. What do you think are some of the perceptions that maybe are inaccurate that you typically hear?
Sure, absolutely. I think the first thing, it depends on location. So, in demographics of the location. So, example, where we are right now, I think in Marlboro, I think there are some families that look at a private school and immediately see a price tag. They don't know specifically what the numbers are, but they know I can't afford it. Private school equals I can't afford it.
I agree.
And so they look at public school as being free. Which, yeah, sure, absolutely, perfect. So I think that's a misconception. So one thing that I think a lot of private schools are trying to do is publicize the fact that there are scholarships available. And at times families aren't even aware of that because they just simply didn't even say, well, it's out of my league, I will never be able to do it. And so one of our goals is to reach out to the community in all different areas around Marlboro and to say there is a way. We'll find a way. Your child, your son, your daughter, they belong here. And so, well, why? Why do they belong here and not a public school? And this isn't, I'm not mocking public schools at all. I think private schools, especially a Catholic school, Mark, and this is something where it's a tough divide. Obviously, there are things that I can say in a school that I can't in a public school, but my kids go to public school. And listening to them, I asked them, well, what'd you do today? What'd you learn? Anything fun? Did you do anything? They have some great ideas that I take and put into my school.
Sure, of course.
Right? So we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, I think the difference, there's a lot of, when I was teaching and even now as a principal, the word competition always comes up. And we're competing with the public schools. We're competing with the charter schools. And in a way we are. But on a philosophical level, we're all in the same game. We're all in it for the kids. We're here to help the kids. And I've met some fantastic individuals in the public school system, and specifically here in Marlboro, that say, you know what, I want to help you. And the reason is not because I want to see your school succeed, but because we're here to see the kids succeed.
But Andy, here's the question that goes through my mind. My kids have all gone to public schools. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to private school. What I struggle with is how to quantify the value. So I'm making this up. So let's say it's $10,000 a year. So I'm sitting there going, okay, for that extra $10,000, what am I getting?
Yeah.
So and I know it's teacher-student ratio is a part of that.
Yeah.
But what is that value? How do you quantify that?
Absolutely. So again, a great question, because it's you have that idea when I mentioned about the team. You have that in a public school setting too. So what are you getting when you buy into this private school culture? And I really do believe that word, and I bring this back to what I said, I think maybe in the first or second segment, is that idea of community. I think that here in a private school, especially at Immaculate Conception School, it is alive, and it is understood as to what it is. And I think that understanding in the minds of the teachers gets communicated well to the students. And not to say that you can't have that at a public school, but I think you'll see it more. You can see the culture. You can actually come in and you can feel the sense of community in a private setting. How? Just because it resonates. We all give an energy off. And I think when a kid holds the door open or says good morning to you, someone that you don't even know, those little things, I think, is the culture of a private school.
Now, what's your average class size there?
We have about 15.
Okay, which is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a class size of 15. So from being a teacher in a public school to coming here and seeing a smaller class size, what are some things you notice in the classroom that just are a benefit of that?
Oh, fantastic. I think people know your name. I think that goes a long way. Like you said before, are you just a number, or do the teachers really know you? And I love it when students feel when they have that smile because you call them by their first name. So I think that's the benefit, one right there. And two, the kids are more accountable because they can accountable for their work, because now they can work in smaller groups with their peers, and the teacher has more time to go to individually assess each student. So I think the smaller classes, it's a benefit to have because you have more time to spend with the kids.
Andy, as you look at your first full year here, what are some of your goals by the end of this year that you're shooting for?
Improve communication. That's my first goal. Is I know this isn't the title of the show, but to improve communication is important. And it's not to say that my predecessor did not do that well. It's just a matter of keeping it going and expanding on it. I see my job, Mark, as someone who's winding the clock. So the clock is the school, and the principal is someone who just winds it and just keeps it going for the next person. So I want to be here for a long time. I really do, and I want to keep winding the clock. But I know there's going to come a time when I won't be. But I want to see the school continue to exist. And so I think that my goal is to keep winding the clock in all aspects of that.
So, Andy, let's say today you go back to school,
Yeah.
and let's pretend a 7th or 8th grader walks up to you.
Yeah.
And they say, Principal Malionek, I was in, I'm making this
Yeah,
up, I was in history class today.
Sure.
And we're learning about World War I.
Okay.
And I don't understand why we need to know this. How many times have we heard a kid say that?
Absolutely.
How many times? So my question to you is, it's such a tough question. So how do you answer that when a kid approaches you?
That's what I love about teaching, and that's what I miss about teaching, is you can always find a common thread, right? So you find this thread. So sure, it's the topic in general, but then you think about it. Okay, so World War, well, what is that all about? About relationships. So you can take it to that sense. You can compare it with how, on a personal level, how one person relates or even communicates with another person, how important that is. And then secondly, you can talk about war today, in that it's understanding that it's about the history and the culture. So when I came into Immaculate Conception, one thing that I had to do was learn its traditions, learn its culture, learn its history. And that's important because I understand where we came from, and now I can look at, okay, where do we want to go?
Yes.
And so I think for a student to understand the history of the country is to understand, where did we come from, where do we have to go?
That's fantastic. And, Andy, you mentioned it earlier in the show. We were talking about instant gratification. And frankly, I think that is the single biggest obstacle in learning for anybody today. We want answers so quickly.
Absolutely.
And so if we're going to take an extra time to learn, and unless we can tangibly grab what the benefit of immediately,
absolutely,
it's not appealing to people.
No, I totally hear you. And and this is something, so I say that to myself all the time, right? And I want to see that immediate gratification, but and that's the human side of me. But you know what, Mark? What's funny is this. I truly believe it's just a matter of being aware, right? So I think that gratification is all around us, right? So in such a way where if it's about how you approach and how you perceive situations. So in other words, so even the tough days that a principal has that we talked about, and that's life. And so you have to embrace the good and the bad, and you see the good in both. And I know that sounds so philosophical, but I think it's true. Is because even I tell this to my two daughters when they get sick and they don't want to take the medicine because it tastes awful, but I always compare that it will make you better. The medicine will help you feel better, even though you can't stand the taste and you have to chug a glass of water just to wash it the taste out of your mouth. You're going to get that fever down. So when you have a tough time, it's something that will sure, we want to humanly and naturally avoid things that cause pain, but at times we should really embrace those moments, because that's what really will help us to be completely formed.
All right, Andy, last question. Now, the Immaculate School is K through 8?
Yes, preschool to grade 8.
Preschool to grade 8.
Yep.
So if someone's listening to the show today and has some interest in talking to you about enrolling in the school, is it just simply give you a call, go online? What's the best?
Give a call. Call us at the school. Email. All the information is on our website. Our phone.
Ahead,
okay,
please.
our phone number is 508-460-3401. And our just go on our website, icschool.net. But all the information is there. And if you want to stop by, I'm very approachable.
He is, everybody. Very approachable.
I'm very approachable. Just stop in. Stop by.
Andy, thank you. You're exactly the kind of role model we're looking for as an administrator and a leader for kids and for teachers and for parents. And thank you so much for coming on the show today, Andy Malionek.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
And you've been listening to another edition of I Communicate, Finding Your Voice. I'm your host, Mark Altman. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday afternoon.
You've been listening to I Communicate with your host, Mark Altman, on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN.